We will begin with the Qin Dynasty. The Qin Dynasty only lasted from 221 BCE to about 207 BCE. The emperor usually got the final word of anything that happens in his country. This rank was passed on, not gained, so it was passed on from family to family. And then next we have the Shensi, which is a prime minister or a high-ranking general, those who help the emperor usually. Next we have the peasants. So the third rank were peasants, and they were really members of traditional class of farmers. They were usually laborers or owners of small farms. And next we have the workers and artists. They mainly gave entertainment to those of other classes, and usually they were to entertain the emperor himself. Now at the very bottom we have merchants and soldiers. Merchants who were to sell to people higher than them, and soldiers were really couldn't own anything because while they were in the military, so they didn't really matter back then. Next we have the Han Dynasty, and the Han Dynasty lasted from 206 BCE to 220 BC. At the top of the societal hierarchy we have the emperor. People were punished if they addressed emperor by name.
Hi, Shayla.
Take her away.
And the wife could appoint a new emperor if the other emperor had died. So many wives did that. At the middle class, we had peasants and farmers. Wealthy people really depended on them for their products and weren't usually looked down upon. And at the very bottom, we have the craftsmen and artisans. They made knives, swords, and other luxury items for the wealthy. In this society, slaves counted as less than 1% of the population. Our three-tiered hierarchy greatly influenced China's social structure long after its end, and it's...
Breaking news. I'm Andrea reporting live from Rochester Hills, Michigan, where a father has broken his daughter's feet in order to prevent her from having basic human rights.
Thank you, Andrea. Now, we saw this a lot during the Qin Dynasty when it was so-called foot binding, where women's feet were broke and bandaged to reduce the size of their feet and make them look somewhat more attractive. And that's where the term sit there and look pretty comes from. Now in the Qin Dynasty, plenty of male dominance, whereas the women just cared for children and did household chores, and the women also didn't have a choice in marriage, their spouse, their land, or their farm. But the Han Dynasty didn't seem to be much different than the Qin Dynasty in the case of women. Women were very rarely educated, they were less valued and expected to obey their husbands, and they didn't own any property, therefore they didn't have any reason to be alive. Now, family values and virtuosity were very heavily stressed in the Han Dynasty. Children were taught to obey their family and their elders, and the fathers tended to be the heads of household, and they tended to arrange marriages and to develop alliances with other families. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you learned something a little bit about the societal hierarchies of both the Han and Qin Dynasty, and have a great night.